Where Price's attorney, Todd Rutherford, is expected to speak about the case at a news conference any minute now. Jeriod Price is a convicted murderer released 16 years early from prison.
After the South Carolina Supreme Court overturned his release, state and local law enforcement are now calling for Price to turn himself in. When Representative Rutherford, or Attorney Rutherford in this case, in this capacity, steps to the microphone, we'll certainly let you know and bring you up to date on what he has to say. Well, meanwhile, our First Alert weather team tracking rain chances this weekend. Chief Meteorologist Adam Clark standing by to tell us more about the timing and how much. Adam?
Yeah, it just looks like Saturday night, Judy, and it looks like it's an overnight event where you can get a little more sleep with a nice pitter-patter of rain. So it's not that bad even into Sunday. Now this evening, a few clouds at 6 o'clock. The chance of rain is just right around 20 to 30%. And so there is a small chance this evening, but for the most part, we clear up and dry up as we head throughout the night tonight, and the temperature's around 67 degrees at midnight. Currently, we're at 79 in Lexington, 75 Winsboro, and 78 degrees in Columbia. Across the region, we've got mostly clear skies. You can see a few thin clouds here around Columbia, and across the state, partly cloudy to mostly clear skies. Now tomorrow, 85 degrees. We start off right around 60, up to around 70 degrees at 10 o'clock and into the upper 70s as we head into the noon hour. Then we're looking at 80s at 3 and at 4 o'clock. So warming up nicely for the afternoon. And again, our rain chances, just a 70% chance for Saturday night into Sunday morning. So Saturday night into Sunday morning, there is a chance of some rain. And as we head into next week, our next chance of rain is not until the weekend. We have a 30% shot Saturday and also Sunday. So just the whole week looks wonderful as we head throughout next week as a high pressure system builds over the region. So just gorgeous weather for us for next week. As far as anything goes for this weekend, let's take a look at that forecast this weekend. Of course, your Saturday, mostly sunny skies, 85 degrees, 70% chance of some thunder showers overnight, and Sunday, 70% chance of rain.
All right, I believe we're going to go now to Todd Rutherford's law firm where he is expected to speak. This is in the Jeriod Price case.
Mr. Price does not know or may not know that he has a warrant out for his arrest. He did not attend the hearing. I was unable to reach him after the hearing. And so I wanted to make it clear to Mr. Price, if he sees this, that my legal advice is that he needs to turn himself in. Although Mr. Price did nothing to deserve this, he was released legally from jail. He did not escape. He walked out with a judge's order. And despite the fact that the Supreme Court has ordered him back into custody, I wanted to make it clear to Mr. Price that he does need to turn himself in at this point. I've talked to his mother, who is elderly and infirm. She tells me that she's been in touch with law enforcement. They searched her house. She does not know where he is, and I don't know that anyone else does at this time. But I did, again, want Mr. Price to know that he needed to turn himself in. I'm sorry that this happened. I'm sorry that the Supreme Court ordered this, and I'm sorry for Mr. Price, who has done nothing but help the citizens of South Carolina capture a dangerous criminal, saving the lives of correctional officers, that somehow that lands him back in jail in the South Carolina Department of Corrections. And so at this point, I'll take any questions.
You said him going back to prison would be like a death sentence. Why now tell him to go back to prison?
Well, he doesn't have a choice at this point. The Supreme Court of South Carolina has ruled, and despite the fact that the solicitor in Richland County recognized that danger, tried to take that into account, the Supreme Court has currently overruled that order and ordered him back to prison. And so at this point, he does not have a choice.
When was the last time you had communication with Mr. Price?
Prior to the hearing on Wednesday, he and I spoke, and I just told him what was at stake, and that was the last time I talked to him.
Is Price's mother located here in Columbia?
I do not know. I had her phone number. She called me because the FBI, she believed, was outside her house. I don't know that that's who it was, but they did search her house. She's elderly and infirm, and I think that some of the law enforcement agents that I've talked to acknowledge that. They did search her house. She doesn't know where he is.
Do you feel like this whole situation is not dirty, a little cold, and letting the man free and then saying, oops, nope, your freedom's taken away?
I think it's beyond that. I think it's cruel. I think that someone that literally saves the lives of correctional officers, complies with the statute, tells us where a dangerous criminal is, and then somehow is let out of prison, not somehow let out of prison on a judge's order, and now somehow ordered to return back to prison after everybody finds out what he did. I think that is dangerous. I think his life is in jeopardy. I think he knew that prior to the hearing. And certainly even now it is still in jeopardy.
What do you say to those people that may say that Price himself may be a dangerous individual being let out back into the community early?
So I'm glad you asked that. I would say to them that they should go back and look at his trial. He went to trial because he believed he was innocent, because he believed he had a self-defense claim. He believed at that time so strongly that he was made an offer of 10 years. He rejected that offer and went to trial. Unfortunately, he was convicted in front of the worst sentencing judges in South Carolina's history, Judge Reggie Lloyd. Judge Reggie Lloyd once gave somebody over 300 years. He chose to give Mr. Price only 35, almost the minimum on a murder charge. Mr. Price was in the Department of Corrections for almost 10 years before they watched a TV show and decided that he must be a gang member. He was not declared a gang member at any time prior to somebody watching a TV show and believing that he was a gang member. They have nothing, even the evidence that they tried to show at trial that he was a gang member. The Supreme Court of South Carolina later said it was based on hearsay, but it was inadmissible error. And so at that point, Mr. Price was convicted. He has served almost 20 years of his sentence, 10 more than his original offer. He is not a dangerous individual. I think there are 3 at least correctional officers that would testify that he saved their lives, and 1 inmate that had escaped, was brought back into custody because of his help. So Mr. Price has done everything that a model citizen should have done while in the Department of Corrections, released on the judge's order, and now with his life being in jeopardy, is going to be placed right back in a spot where he tried so desperately to get out of.
Well, Mr. Rutherford, during that Supreme Court hearing on Wednesday, some of the justices
Todd
mentioned
Rutherford,
that
the attorney for Jeriod Price, who Todd is saying for him to turn himself in. Now, a lot of the last things he was saying are Todd's opinions on some things, but what we do know for sure that are facts is that Jeriod Price was sentenced to 35 years in prison, and Todd is right that he was legally allowed to be let out of prison, but after the Supreme Court decision this week, they said he did have to finish out that sentence. So he has been released 16 years early. His attorney now calling for him to go ahead and turn himself in, adding that the mother says she has no idea where he is.
And when they made that argument before the state Supreme Court earlier this week, essentially the Attorney General's office says that the order was illegal for a number of procedural reasons and that it violated the state constitution, and they were able to prevail in that hearing to ultimately get the court to agree with their opinion and to order Mr. Price to be arrested again. And there were also questions called into play about the veracity of the information that Mr. Price shared with law enforcement that was helpful in terms of other cases. One justice in particular pushed back, saying that that evidence included an affidavit from an inmate who had major credibility issues and also hearsay from a detention officer who shared information not that she heard directly, but that was shared with her by someone else. So a lot of legal complications that we'll see play out in this trial. But the big question right now is, where is Jeriod Price? Todd Rutherford says, his attorney, he has no idea where he is. He says that his family has no idea where he is and that he is not even sure that Mr. Price knows that a warrant has now been issued for his arrest. Obviously, this is a story we will continue to follow. Our Ashley Jones is at that news conference. If there are any other developments from Attorney Rutherford, we will certainly have them for you here on WIS. Well, in other news this evening, tonight, Richland School District 2 is facing a lawsuit from the family of a 16-year-old student. This is stemming from an incident that happened just recently on campus where a student was stabbed at Ridgeview High School earlier this week. Apparently, the incident started in a hallway at the school that's located